I've been thinking briefly about certainty again, and how we express certainty, what kinds of metaphors we use when we're trying to indicate our certainty, and possibly what that says about what kinds of metaphors we're deploying non-consciously to act as organising structures for what we think of as certainty. You know, how we kind of assign a particular valency to an element of data or a piece of knowledge to regard it as something that we feel certain about. And I guess here I'm following a little bit on what Steven Pinker says. Morning. When he says that language is a window into human nature. So I'm not particularly holding linguistic expressions up as necessarily evidence, but they seem to be perhaps pointers, traces of cognition that we can perhaps do some archaeology on. And there's a couple of expressions I'm interested in which are to do with certainty. And one is, and this may be a particularly northern expression, I don't know, which is if you're speaking to someone and you want to indicate that what you're saying is completely true and you feel completely certain about it, you might say, as sure as I'm standing here. As sure as I'm standing here. It's a kind of indication that I feel so certain about something that certainty is kind of closer to me than I am to myself almost. It has that kind of proximity, that kind of relationship to what I might think of as a kind of central location for where my being is. My being is, to the extent that I do think of myself as kind of spatially located and temporally located, and I think I do, and I think we all do. By saying, as sure as I'm standing here, I think I'm aligning that sense of certainty with this metaphor of location. And also a kind of staticness. It's about standing. It's not about as sure as I'm walking here, or as sure as I'm wandering about here. Those would seem to indicate much more ambiguity towards the things you're talking about. As sure as I'm standing here implies a kind of fixed location in space, the centre of your own lived experience, you know, relating to things like the fact that we find ourselves at the centre of our visual world and the centre of our auditory world, and the centre of our proprioceptive worlds in a sense. So I think this thing about as sure as I'm standing here is a kind of testament to one of the things that we might use as a key ordering metaphor, key conceptual metaphor for what certainty is when we're talking about it. In addition to the ones I've already spoken about before to do with seeing, where believing is seeing, but I think I'm talking about something else now. So that's one of them. The second one, which I think is related to that, is to do with what happens when we promise something, which is, I think, related to certainty. When we promise something, we're testifying to the certainty of the commitment that we're making. And one of the things that certainly kids do, and I'm sure not just kids, is we say this thing about cross my heart and hope to die. We say, cross my heart and hope to die. I'm not sure about the last bit yet, about the hope to die bit. I'll have to come back to that. But I really like this cross my heart bit. I mean, I don't know what its origins are. It may lie in Christianity, or I've got no idea. I'll have to find out about that. But the way I like to think about this cross my heart is what this cross represents. And to me, it's not the cross of Jesus or the cross of, I don't know, something else. It's to me that the cross that you find on pirate maps. That's what the cross I think of. These are like the Cartesian coordinates of a particular place where the certainty that underpins your promise lies. And like the previous example to do with sure as I'm standing here, the place that you cross, the place where that treasure of certainty can be found, if you dig deep enough, is at the heart, which is a kind of substitute for centre, axis, still point of the turning world, stationary point, core, all those kinds of attributes that again we give to this intuitive sense of self located at the centre of experiential space, phenomenological space, I guess. So I think when we're saying both those things, it's as sure as I'm standing here, as I'm as sure of that as I'm standing here, and cross my heart and hope to die. I think we're drawing on embodied locational metaphors, linking the space and the place of one's being to the sense of surety assigned to that. So we're the logos for our certainty, if you like, or is it logos or mythos? Anyway, the ground on which our certainty is built is this ground, which is exactly here, precisely now. X marks the spot.